Living in the Past is a Turtle, Mysteries of Azeroth, and Everlook Broadcasting production. This is Living in the Past, your Everlook Broadcasting Company weekly show about all things Turtle, Mysteries of Azeroth. Today is Friday, February 2nd, 2024, and I'm Dan, your host for the next hour. We have a jam-packed show for you here today. I'm going over budget just a touch on music tracks again. Each break is going to be 4 songs instead of 3. I'm going to try to make sure this is the last time I do this because we have so much to talk about today. We have patch notes, we have updates. We're going to be sharing some guild, a little bit of guild spam for you. I shouldn't say spam. Guild advertising? There we go. This is something I've wanted to do for a while, and I've said to myself, okay, we're just going to do this. So I'm getting ahead of myself here. It's segment 3. We're in segment 1 right now. So here's what we have going on the show today. We're going to start out in the first segment here with talking a little bit about what I've been playing on the side here over the last week or so. And we're going to be talking about patch notes and the music here for today. In our second segment, this is I'm proud of actually being organized for this. A couple upcoming projects here. Mostly for Everlook Broadcasting, but also for the server group in general. I had a really wonderful sit down with Akalix and Vrograg the other day, and I think we had some really good ideas. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, what I can share. Obviously, there's some stuff that I can't say yet because we're really not sure exactly where we're going with this stuff, but I do want to share some things. And then in our final segment here today, I'm going to share and this is something, like I said, I've been wanting to do for a while, but we have in the Turtle Discord a place where guilds can shout themselves out. And I've been trying to figure out a way to cleanly take that and translate it into something that works here on the radio. So instead of, constantly mulling it over and over again and trying to figure out how I can do it to where it's just going to play in like an automatic format. What's going to happen is I have spent probably about 2 hours today grabbing about a dozen guild notifications from the Discord from the last few days for both Nordinar and Telebeam. And we're going to share those in our third segment. So you may hear your guild shouted out today. Look forward to that in our third segment here on Living in the Past. With that being said, though, let's go and get into our first segment of the day. I want to just share a little bit about what I've been doing, I've been up to, and then we're going to dive straight into patch notes here. And then after that, we're going to talk about the music here for today. I will say, today's music, our third week in our Music in the Key of Meme theme, today is kind of the, I don't want to say toxic waste dump, but definitely the most infectious and the most, I'm going to say, radioactive of of some of these tracks. You have been warned. I'm concerned for anyone who tunes in during one of the music breaks because they're going to be all sorts of confused and disoriented. These are the memeiest of the memes that we're going to be digging into. Anywho, really quick here, wanted to talk about a couple games that I've been playing. First off, I finished my playthrough, like my 4th or 5th full playthrough of the Dungeon Keeper 2 campaign, and the game keeps slapping. It always feels good to play through all over again. I've played through it so many times, like I said, 4 or 5 times now, but Dungeon Keeper 2 in particular, the way it does humor, the way the actual gameplay is handled, the way it's stylized, it has its quirks, it has its bumps in the road, it has its bugs still to this day, but my God, it just feels great to play through all over again. It is unfortunate that War for the Overworld just didn't hit the same way. It didn't quite hit that note. They did their best, and the voice acting was, of course, incredible. Same voice actor from Dungeon Keeper 1 and 2, but it didn't hit quite the same. But Dungeon Keeper 2 always feels stellar to play through all over again, to this day. Also, I finally, and it's almost embarrassing that it's taken me this long to pick it up, Iron Harvest. Iron Harvest is on sale right now on Steam, and it's been on my wish list for ages because I love Scythe, the board game, and I love the setting, and I love RTS. And I never bothered to pick it up, but it being on sale, I had to pull the trigger. I had to get it. And I just barely scratched the surface of the campaign, and it is so satisfying. The way the mechs have their own like deep personality to them, and how they move and how they fight and how they have their own abilities and how they level, it really is satisfying. So if you're an RTS nut like me, you need to get Iron Harvest. So it's so satisfying. All right, that's what I've been doing. On to patch notes, which is probably the thing that people are most interested in. And I say patch notes, but this isn't really like patch notes. These are just in general updates that have happened this week. The first one I'm going to start out with is the consumables update. This went into play after the January 31st maintenance this week. Suddenly, a lot of different effects now persist through death. And that's specifically in dungeon and raid environments that they do. I don't believe this affects open world, overworld gameplay, so this is specifically in dungeon and raids. The list is long. When Acalix was actually posting about this and talking about it, because I was having a meeting with Acalix and Vrograg at the same time. And he was telling us about this as he was putting this post up on Tuesday night. And good Lord, I think collectively Vrograg and myself, our jaws hit the floor rapid fire with some of these. Because some of these are whatever, like lesser armor, lesser health, lesser agility. It's okay, sure, why not? But then stuff like fire protection and frost protection, shadow protection, holy protection, nature protection. And then there's the big ones, like greater agility, arcane elixir, greater intellect. And then for me, as a warrior, elixir of the giants, elixir of brute force, and elixir of the mongoose, all lasting through death in dungeon and raid environments. Okay. That just... I'm sure most of you have seen the price of mongoose lately. My God. So the fact that I don't have to keep smashing these consumables after each wipe, and I can plan out more where, okay, I know, okay, we're doing Molten Core, we're doing Blackwing Lair. I'm going to need about 3 hours worth of consumables. Okay, I can plan for that better now. This is an incredible update. And I know for a fact there are some people that are going to feel like this is crushing their ability to make money. This is going to hurt people who really make a killing off of the fact that you did need to smash these consumables really hard during progression runs. This is honestly, though, an update for the better with the server economy and with where pricing on some of these has been at. Again, I will bring up Elixir of the Mongoose because spending 15 gold per mongoose is not sustainable. I don't care how much money you have. That is not sustainable with the current server economy, at least on Norden. I speak specifically on Norden. This is a great change, at least in my opinion. Now, I do want to quote verbatim the notes at the bottom of this update. In regards to gold farming, our goal is not to entirely remove prominent gold farms. There will always be a best farm. However, any farms that are significantly disruptive to the economy as a whole, such as generating an unnatural amount of raw gold or outputting a disproportionate amount of gold for time, are subject to changes. In the coming weeks, we will be reflecting further upon how these changes impact the market. After that, we will begin to implement fixes and changes which should address a handful of farms which are in our sights. Also, in regarding other consumables, while we do not intervene in market manipulation, we do consistently track the markets. These include looking for the why behind certain items having reduced supply. After some investigation, we found a small number of groups participating in abusive gameplay, which are detailed in the GDKP, TDKP, and Turtle WoW thread, which we're going to go over here in a few minutes. We're going to talk about this as well. I want to add a note to this as well, though, because as I mentioned, Vrograg, Akalix, and I were talking Tuesday evening in regards to a few other things that I'll get into later, talking about a few future productions for Everlook and Telebeam. We were talking, though, at the time, and Akalix specifically mentioned that they want to be extremely delicate with these things. They want to keep a very close eye on any market changes they make because they understand, the devs understand how sensitive the market is. That even the most minute changes can have an immense impact, and they want to try and be aware of that as best as possible. So for anyone who feels like this is incredibly heavy-handed or this is affecting them in ways that, you know, either the devs didn't predict or the devs don't care about, I think it's safe to say that that's not the case. They're keeping an extremely close eye on this. Even as that post says, they're going to keep an eye on this over the coming weeks and continue to make adjustments or changes as needed. So, if you're noticing a negative impact from this, give feedback. Talk about it. Provide a Reddit post. Have a conversation in Discord about this. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm actually experiencing something bad about these changes, and I want to share my thoughts. That's healthy and constructive. That's absolutely healthy and constructive. Because this is not being done just because they feel like changing the market. They want to make things more sustainable for everyone on the server. That feels like the long-term goal. Sustainability. So don't be afraid. Share your thoughts. This is not a one and done thing. Again, as I mentioned in the post, they're keeping a close eye on the market and they're going to be continuing to make adjustments because this is delicate. This is fine needle work. You can't just take a hatchet to something and fix it with this kind of system. So provide feedback, share your thoughts, be constructive. Don't be aggressive. Don't be insulting. We're all just trying to, make sure the server works to the best of our abilities. So, with that being said, let's move on to the other post I mentioned. GDKP, TDKP, and how they affect the server. Obviously, we've all known GDKP has been banned for the longest time, and in my opinion, for good reason. GDKP does not decide who should get loot or how fairly loot should be distributed. It decides who has the most money to get as much loot as physically possible. That's bad. In my opinion, that's just straight up bad. It's not a good system. TDKP, I actually just heard about. I did not know this existed before this post went up. Tithe DKP. How that works is players who participate in the raid will donate consumables. And that's why this is attached to the consumables update. Players will donate consumables to the raid in exchange for gear. This has now been officially banned on Turtle as well. I didn't even know this existed. And while this does feel less bad than GDKP because of that monetary investment that you need to make into consumables in the first place, it doesn't feel great. And I'm glad that now that we know this exists, something's being done about this. Turtle has a very strict policy, as we all know, for any kind of real money transaction or anything that might encourage a real money transaction. And not only does GDKP directly feed into RMT problems that, especially, unfortunately, live classic servers have, Tithe DKP also will do the same. So the fact that the Turtle team is jumping on this as fast as possible here, now that we know it exists, that feels really good. I'm shocked that people go into this kind of detail for a DKP kind of system. If it's not obvious too, I'm not even a fan of DKP. I've always been a fan of loot councils myself, and pre-established systems. Pre-established systems are the best. Anywho, those are the major updates that just happened this week. Also, and in addition, I did want to remind everyone that Telebeam is now in Phase 2. Started back on January 19th. Phase 2 is going to last about 3 months and will include Blackwing Lair, Zul'Gurub, Emerald Sanctum, the Dragons of Nightmare, the Nerubian Overseer, and Astarius. Last couple being world bosses there. Good luck to everyone over on Telebeam. We're going to hear more about Telebeam and their guilds here later in our third segment. With that being said, we do need to get to our first break of the day. So, as previously mentioned, today for our musical selection, we complete our 3-week stretch of music in the key of memes with some of the most infectious, the most radioactive, and the most dangerous of potent meme-tastic music I could dig up. All of this is either almost pure meme material made popular by how ridiculous or excessive the tracks are, or how maddening they were designed to be. Be warned, this will get extra. For our first break here, we're opening with the more mainstream infectious grade memery. Starting out, the Korean rapper sensation himself, it's Psy with his universe-destroying track Gangnam Style. After that, we'll be bumping the 2004 Moldovan pop hit that evolved into a massive meme video. It's Numa Numa by Ozone. I know that's not the real name of the song. I cannot properly pronounce the real name of the song. I apologize. Ocean Man by Ween from the late 90s will continue this madness-infused nightmare break, and to finish it up, it's the nigh intolerable internet-infecting What Does the Fox Say? I am so sorry for this by Ilvis. I am sorry, but I'm also not really that sorry because our second break will be worse. Our second segment of Living in the Past comes up right after this. The musical tracks for this episode have been removed due to YouTube copyright. To listen to the full episodes with music, tune in to Everlook Broadcasting every Friday with the in-game radio widget. Welcome back to Living in the Past. I'm Dan. It's good to have you here for our second segment of the broadcast. Before I get into the conversations I had with Akalix and Vrograg on possible future productions and ideas we've had, I teased a little bit of this last week. I do want to mention, over on our Everlook Broadcasting YouTube page, not only do we, of course, have all previous episodes of Living in the Past up there for you to enjoy and review as you'd like, we also posted up all of the lore readings that we've done for the radio over the course of the last few months up on there. So, if you'd like to listen back to any of those in particular, let's say you're curious about one of the ones that you heard previously and you want to listen to it again, specifically, you can head over to the Everlook Broadcasting YouTube page, and you can listen to those as you would like. We do have a playlist. I set up a playlist for each of them as well. So, they're there for you to enjoy as you would like. Now, with that being said, which I have said at least 5 times in this broadcast already, let's get into a little bit of the conversation I had with Vrograg and Akalix in regards to upcoming projects. Obviously, I can't say everything because some of it may never happen. Some of it is speculation. A lot of brainstorming, honestly, we did. But it was a ton of fun and it was very satisfying. There are 2 things that we're kind of focusing on here in the near future. Hopefully, and this is in regards to Telebeam and a possible PvP event. Hopefully, you have experienced the previous events that Vrograg has done, both here on Nordnar and in general. I was lucky enough that he had me on co-commentating the Class War PvP event from the other month. Ton of fun. So much fun. Went about 2 hours or so. And honestly, incredibly satisfying. It was so good to see so many people just shoved into the arena down in Stranglethorn Vale. Like, so many characters shoved into it. And then to see the actual process of getting through the brackets, seeing who won, and then seeing all the best of the best just piled together and spar it out. That was really good. So in that same kind of mindset, we're talking about what we might be able to do for the PvP crowd over on Telebeam. Because obviously, if the PvP is good over on Nordnar, PvP over on Telebeam is going to be darn great. So we floated a few ideas back and forth, and while nothing really crystallized in our minds just yet with what and how we want to do, we have some really good ideas. The next steps for this are going to be, Vrograg is going to be reaching out to a couple of the PvP organizers over on Telebeam. We're going to get a few ideas from them to see where they're at with the community, what their thoughts are for a kind of event, and make sure we're not stepping on any toes more than anything else. Getting ideas and then not stepping on any toes are going to be the big parts of that. But after we get that feedback, at that point, we really do want to have some kind of just fun PvP event on Telebeam that not just includes the people who have really dedicated themselves to being on Telebeam, but also allows the community at large to participate. One idea I had is having some kind of event where we give people about a month's heads up. And is a certain level bracket. So like 20 to 29, for example. So even if you listener, don't have a character currently on Telebeam of any level, you have a month to get a character to that high 20s point where they can participate, even if you're just a casual player. And then, of course, the day of, it's all hands on deck. So that's at least a big concern of mine, is making sure everyone in the community can participate. So, I'm excited to see what ideas the community has in store for us already, and hopefully we can get an event up here within the next month or two. That's no promises, of course, no promises, but that's kind of the goal. That's kind of where I would like it to be. So in Dan's happy, perfect world. Anywho, the next thing I wanted to talk about, and this is what I teased a little bit last week, was some kind of Turtle Time podcast. Now, that name is not going to stick because I didn't know this. There already is a Turtle Time podcast about Turtle WoW here, done by community members. So that we're not going to use that name. That's theirs. We're not going to step on those toes. So I have to come up with a different name. I think it was I don't remember who came up with this, but someone suggested like Under the Turtle Shell or something. And the concept is we pick a topic for the month and we get a developer or two to join us, as well as possibly a community member. And we have a more long-term, in-depth conversation where we get information from the horse's mouth and allow the developer and the development team to speak on a more direct and personal level on the topic at hand. So there's obviously a lot of things we could talk about. We're going to try and stay focused with it for each month. Have it be really pertinent to what's going on, really pertinent to what's in like the forefront of people's brains on the server, but also make sure it's something that is easily digestible and something that makes sense to the community to talk about. That's a lot of things trying to happen at the same time, but I know it's possible to get it done. And that's kind of the overall goal of creating something that you can get direct feedback from the developers on this without giving people room to overstep bounds. Because honestly, any time that you have, people being upfront and honest with their feelings, with what's going on, what's being worked on, there is some level of vulnerability there. I'll say vulnerability. So it's a careful balancing act of, are we allowing people to ask the right questions? Are we bringing the right folks on? And then are we picking the correct topics? But that's kind of where we're at right now with that Turtle Developer. I'll say Turtle Developer podcast. I don't want to keep saying Turtle Time because no, we're not using that name. That name's not happening. But I do feel like we're going to be at a really good point with this podcast if we're able to curate it properly, make sure the conversations are honest ones, and create an environment where the developers do feel comfortable really just opening up and showing their personal thoughts and feelings about development, as well as talking honestly about where the development is at. And I think that not only is that going to be really satisfying for the community at large, but for me and being able to help host it, that gives me a chance to ask questions that I feel like maybe the developers don't always think about or don't always ask themselves, or maybe Acalix doesn't always present per se. Because, I will say, I love this about how Acalix, Frograg, and I work together. We all have very different mindsets. We come from very different places in the overall community and from where we're at personally. And it's really satisfying to be able to work with them on this too. So those are the upcoming projects here for Turtle. In our next segment, we're going to go ahead and share some of those wonderful, wonderful guild promotions I've wanted to share for so long. If you have posted recently in the last few days in the Discord about your guild, you might hear your guild here in about 10 minutes or so. So feel free to cheer in chat if you do hear your guild. Give that home team crowd energy. But before that, hazmat suits on, ear protection on, because this is truly some of the most infectious, some of the most toxic waste that the internet has ever produced. We open, because why not, with the Pylon Balls Trap Mix, an amalgamation of so many different memes into one polka-infused nightmare. Next, it's Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise, followed up by one of the original internet musical memes, All Your Base Are Belong to Us. We finish the break up with the Russian shout singing guy that was dredged up from the mid-1970s, which I'm still not sure where it's from, to be entirely honest. Our final break with the guild shoutouts coming up right after this. The musical tracks for this episode have been removed due to YouTube copyright. To listen to the full episodes with music, tune in to Everlook Broadcasting every Friday with the in-game radio widget. Welcome back to the final segment of Living in the Past here. I'm Dan, it's good to have you. We're going to get right into this here. This is something I've wanted to do for a while, which is guild shoutouts. So if you hear your guild getting shout out, if you're on Nordnar at least, give us a shout in world chat there. Cheer on your home team, so to speak. If you're on Telebeam, there's no world chat. Still, feel free to shout. Anywho, let's get into it here. Thunder Ale Brewing Company is an EU-based raiding guild on Nordnar. They are the oldest guild on the server, dating back from 20-strong population. That's 20, not 20K. Server first in all categories. To say they have things on farm is an understatement. They also have in their ranks some of the best players from each class. So you want to learn your class and improve, this is where you belong. Currently, they raid Zul'Gurub, AQ20, MC, Blackwing Lair, AQ40, and Nax. And they're looking for mages, shamans, and a hunter, and prefer people that are going to show up for most raids on a regular basis. The Stormwind Opportunity League is a casual progression guild on Nordnar with a plan to progress through all raid content Turtle WoW has to offer. They are currently farming AQ40, Blackwing Lair, Emerald Sanctum, and Molten Core with a raid start time at 8 p.m. Eastern, and are fleshing out their roster and gearing up for Nax. All classes and specializations welcome, but they're currently looking for shamans, healers, and warriors. Farmers Market is a North America-based guild on Nordnar, with some old souls returning, looking to enjoy the game in pure fun. Casual RP will be plentiful alongside in-game events, with naked gnome and goblin runs across Azeroth. There's much in this world of Azeroth to be explored, but they pride themselves in finding the funny content to be explored together. Currently, they're raiding Zul'Gurub, AQ20 and 40, Molten Core, Emerald Sanctum, Onyxia, and Blackwing Lair, and are looking for tanks, healers, and any shamans, as well as an active player who can effectively translate English to Mandarin to enhance their communication and community. Squad is a North American raiding guild on Nordnar that puts a focus on real life and fun. Together, they've gone from Zul'Gurub pugs to progression into Nax and beyond. From their mountain fortress in Feralus, they quest and raid all over Azeroth. Squad encourages a semi-casual raid environment. Attendance for every raid is not required, and they consider themselves alt-friendly as well. They raid regularly at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and are currently focusing on single-day Nax clears. They're also looking for a dedicated Shadow Priest, a Power Infusion Priest healer, a Shaman healer, and a Paladin healer. Weird Vibes is a premier North America late-night progression raiding guild on Nordnar, currently progressing through Nax. They're 12 of 15 currently. They're looking for more gamers. Experienced leadership sets the stage for a friendly, fun, but serious raid environment. Come join fast clears, good times, and a great set of loot to be had. Come experience Naxxramas progression. Their their ideal raider, there we go, will communicate, be consistent, passionate, and have a basic understanding of their class, and be willing to learn. Knowledgeable leadership willing to help along the way is a plus. They expect their core to show up on time, consumed up, and with their best in slot or equivalent ready to slay monsters. Weird Vibes is currently looking for paladins, a priest, a druid, and a mage for next progression. Sincerity First is a small guild on Nordinar which focuses on the EU time slots, welcoming like-minded people sincerely wishing to savor a more wholesome and journey-oriented experience of the game. Being process-oriented, their focus is not on progression or gearing up quickly, but rather on sharing quality hours of dynamic playtime together each week through nostalgic dungeons like Zul'Gurub, Molten Core, and Onyxia. Sincerity First is still in the early stages of its slow and steady raiding experience. With Lower Karazhan and Zul'Gurub well cleared, they now stand ready to collect the hands of enemies in Molten Core and open up the next part of the vanilla adventure. They welcome similarly advanced heroes in the 50 to 60 range, looking for a sturdy core of friendly folks to do dungeons, attunements, and wholesome raids. Raven is a newly formed raiding guild on Nordinar that is looking for raiders. They can guarantee a transparent loot system, well-organized guild structure, and a respectful environment. This guild is mainly for players who wish to laugh and have fun while clearing PvE content smoother than last week. They plan to have official guild raids Thursday, Sunday, and Tuesdays starting at 8 p.m. server time. Currently, Raven has a recruiting priority on 2 healers of any class, mages, hunters, and shamans, but is interested in any dedicated players interested in helping the group build and grow. Mabap Speedhack is an alliance-side guild on Telebeam looking for Saturday raiders for Molten Core and Emerald Sanctum. They're experienced and dedicated players looking for similar characters, and are building a balanced raid roster to grow together through the content that Telebeam has to offer. In addition, they're organizing world PvP events and activities on the server. Korkron Enforcers is a Horde-side world PvP-focused, English-speaking and international guild on Telebeam, looking for more people interested in world PvP for both raiding Alliance territories and cities, as well as actively defending Horde lands. Toa is a guild focused on both PvP and PvE on Telebeam. Their core members are vanilla veterans, having conquered all baseline vanilla content and been active on Turtle WoW for a few months. Molten Core, Onyxia, and Karazhan are fully cleared. Their current goals are engaging in various PvP activities, from ranked pre-mades to small skirmishes, world bosses, and large-scale PvP and PvE events. They prefer to focus on a quality over quantity style of recruitment, emphasizing each individual be well integrated into their community. Currently, Toa raids Saturday nights at 6 p.m. server time and is currently looking for healers, shamans, druids, warriors, and hunters, but is open to all applications. And that's all for the guild shoutouts here for right now. If you didn't hear your guild, don't worry. I'm going to try and do this a little more regularly. I don't know if it's going to be every month, but certainly whenever I feel like I can spend the time to do it, I'm going to try to. So, again, if you didn't hear yours, make sure you're posting up in the official Turtle WoW Discord in the appropriate guild channels for each server. There's one for each, one for Nordinar and one for Telebeam. Make sure you're posting in there, and you might hear a shout-out on one of these episodes of Living in the Past for your guild. With that being said, though, let's go ahead and close things out. Thank you for taking the time to join me today. Our nostalgia continues, even though today's broadcast is at an end. And I hope you enjoyed the show here today. A huge thank you to the Turtle developers, moderators, staff, and volunteers. Without the entire team's hard work and dedication, we wouldn't have this station or server group. An additional thank you to the audio engineers and creators here for the use of their soundtracks they've created, which we use for segment transitions and intro audio. if you'd like to find out more about what I do, I invite you to check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/@thedannation and my series, Ancient Lore, a recapture of the spirit of I just stopped right there on a dime. Goodness. And the capture of the spirit of my original podcast, The Ancient of Lore. I'm going to leave that in, just so you all know I do make the mistake on the rare occasion. Until next Friday, let's keep living in the past.